Gravity Falls, a show of humor, mystery, and casual viewing. Unless you're me. My name is Christian. You're probably wondering why I'm dressed as Dipper Pines and about to rewatch the entire series. Rest assured, there's a perfectly logical explanation. Alright, now we'll move on to Summerween. This one's another fun episode. The basic premise of this episode is that since the show takes place during summer, you obviously can't have a Halloween episode. So Alex Hirsch and the writers came up with Summerween, which their reasoning is that the people of Gravity Falls love Halloween so much that they decide to celebrate 2 times out of the year. So instead of like jack-o'-lanterns, they have like jack-o'-melons, they carve a little face in the watermelons and they kind of go around trick-or-treating and everything like that. Kind of again tying in the whole premise of, Dipper's trying to grow up too fast and then Mabel just kind of wants to just stay the same age, where Dipper wants to go to like the Halloween party with, Wendy and Robbie and all the other teenage characters, but then Mabel wants to kind of go trick-or-treating with the rest of her friends and everything like that, but Dipper doesn't really want to. But then we get introduced to the character of the Summerween trickster, and the Summerween trickster kind of like gives them this challenge of like, if you don't give me 500 pieces of candy by the end of the night, for the light in the last jack-o'-lantern blows out, you die. So that kind of motivates Dipper to go trick-or-treating with Mabel and Candy and Grenda and, get all these pieces of candy so they don't die. And eventually they get to like, 499 pieces of candy, but then like the last light in the jack-o'-melon blows out because there's this whole funny scene of like old man McGucket, stealing the last jack-o'-melon, him waving around, like the possibility of it going out. So then the characters like tackle him, grab it, and then, they kind of like sigh in relief, but then their breath kind of puts the jack-o'-melon out. So the Summerween trickster confronts them, tells them that they didn't get all the candy in time, chases them around the town, and then they kind of go to the Halloween store, which was set up earlier of like, the Pines family creating all this different shenanigans in the Halloween store, and get the big revelation that the Summerween trickster is actually just a bunch of loser candy that the kids didn't really care about. And it gives this whole backstory of like the 90s teenagers that kind of come back from the inconveniencing of how like they just kind of threw away all this candy, and then the candy kind of formed into this giant monster who wants revenge on the kids for not eating his candy. But then Seuss, being who he is, like loves just any kind of candy and ends up like eating him, and that kind of gets rid of the Summerween trickster. So a lesson that they learn is that it's pure evil and everything like that. And then Seuss has that one line like, I am out of luck tonight. So yeah, just like a fun Halloween episode. Not really too many tie-ins to the overall series. Just kind of continues like different storylines that we had of like Dipper trying to impress Wendy, who's going out with Robbie. And then we get the whole revelation that Wendy and Robbie actually had to leave the party early because Robbie ate a lollipop stick first and had to go home. So it turned out that the party was like a bust anyway, and that Dipper and Mabel and the rest of the kids kind of had fun with this whole kind of like Summerween adventure, fighting against the Summerween trickster and everything like that. So yeah, it actually ended up, being fun anyway. And then you have this whole B storyline of Stan trying to scare all these different kids and him failing, and then he eventually comes out of the house, in a towel, and then the kids freak out about that and everything. So I think that was a really like fun reveal. We also got a cryptogram at the end, which translates to "brought to you by Homework the Candy," which is a reference to one of the candies found in the bowl in the Mystery Shack of Loser Candy. But yeah, just like a fun kind of like one and done episode, like a holiday episode. So obviously they can't have Halloween episodes, so they have to have a Summerween episode. But again, not really too many tie-ins, but just a fun episode overall.